You ask them how they're doing, and they say, "I'm fine." You ask again, gently, and they say it again. Fine. Nothing to talk about. Nothing wrong. But something in their eyes tells a different story. Something that's been carried alone for so long, it no longer even asks to be shared. This isn't strength, and it isn't weakness either. It's something psychology has been studying quietly for decades, and once you understand it, you'll never look at a fine the same way again. Psychologists call this pattern emotional suppression, but the deeper research goes far beyond just not talking about feelings. Researchers studying attachment and emotional regulation, including work built on Bessel van der Kolk's studies on trauma and the body, have found something striking. People who never talk about their problems aren't necessarily people without pain. They're often people who learned, very early, that sharing pain came with a cost, not a small cost, a cost that shaped how they see connection itself. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly where this pattern comes from, what it's quietly costing the people who live it, and why, underneath the silence, there's often more strength than anyone around them realizes. It usually starts in childhood, in a home where emotions weren't unwelcome exactly. They were just inconvenient. Maybe a parent who reacted to sadness with irritation instead of comfort. Maybe a household where problems were meant to be solved quietly, not felt out loud. Maybe simply growing up faster than childhood allows, learning that if you fell apart, no one else was steady enough to catch you. Maybe it was a sibling who needed more attention, more management, more constant care, which meant your own needs quietly moved to the back of the line again and again, until you stopped mentioning them at all. Maybe it was simply a house where love was real, but attention was scarce, and you learned early that being easy was the safest way to be kept close. The child doesn't reason this through consciously. The mind just registers a pattern. Sharing this feeling didn't help. It only added a problem to solve. So a decision gets made. Quietly, permanently, I'll carry this myself. That decision becomes so automatic, so early, that most adults living with it don't even remember choosing it. It simply feels like personality. It feels like who they've always been, instead of a strategy they built to survive one specific house, one specific childhood, one specific set of people who weren't equipped to hold what they were feeling. Here's what almost no one sees from the outside. Silence like this isn't peace, it's labor. Every single day, a private negotiation happens, quietly, invisibly, sometimes dozens of times before lunch. Should I say something? Would it help? Or would it just be one more thing for someone else to manage? Is this worth the risk of being seen as too much, too heavy, too complicated to love easily? Most days, the answer defaults to no. Not out of fear exactly, but out of a kind of tired, practiced caution that's been reinforced 1,000 times. Before, the body keeps score, even when the mouth stays quiet. Researchers studying chronic stress have found that suppressed emotion doesn't disappear. It gets stored physically as tension that shows up in the jaw, the shoulders, the stomach, in sleep that never quite feels like rest, in a kind of low, constant hum of alertness that never fully switches off. It can show up as a racing mind at 2 a.m. for no clear reason, a stomach that stays tight through an entire ordinary day, a tiredness that sleep alone never seems to fix. None of this feels dramatic enough to explain, so it usually goes unexplained, filed away as just how things are. This is the part rarely said out loud. Staying silent doesn't mean nothing is happening inside. It means everything is happening, alone. You've probably seen this person before, maybe without realizing what you were looking at. They're the one who changes the subject the moment the conversation turns toward them. The one who types out a long message explaining what's wrong and deletes it before sending, over and over, sometimes for years. The one who shows up to work, to dinner, to a group chat, fully present on the surface, cracking jokes, asking about everyone else's day, while something underneath stays completely unspoken. They're the one who says, "Don't worry about me, I'm okay," while quietly rearranging their entire week to avoid a conversation that might crack the surface. The one who can list, in detail, exactly what everyone else in the room is going through, but goes blank, almost defensive, the moment someone turns that same question back on them. If this sounds like someone you know, or like you, comment, "I see it." This isn't dishonesty. It's a system built for protection, running exactly as it was trained to run, doing its job with a kind of quiet, relentless loyalty, long after the danger that built it has actually passed. Here's what's easy to miss about people who carry things quietly. The same system that isolates them is often the same system that made them remarkably steady for everyone else. They notice when someone else is struggling before anyone says a word. They know how to sit with hard emotions without flinching because they've had so much private practice sitting with their own. They rarely add weight to a room, not because they don't have any, but because they learned to carry their own before anyone had to ask, before anyone even offered. Friends often describe them as the strong one, the calm one, the one who always has it together. What almost no one says out loud is how lonely that description can feel from the inside. How much quiet exhaustion can hide behind a compliment that was meant kindly. This isn't a reason to stay silent forever, but it explains something important. This pattern was never about being broken. It was about becoming someone who could hold more than most people ever have to, at a cost most people never see and rarely get thanked for. The shift rarely comes from a dramatic breakdown. It usually comes from something much smaller. One conversation where the truth slips out, almost by accident, and instead of becoming a burden, it becomes a relief. Instead of pushing someone away, it pulls someone closer. Sometimes it happens with a stranger. Oddly enough, someone with no history, no expectations, nothing to lose. Sometimes it happens with a therapist, in a room built specifically for this kind of honesty. Sometimes it happens with an old friend, late at night, when exhaustion finally outweighs the habit of holding everything together. Psychologists who study emotional expression have found that naming a feeling out loud, even briefly, even imperfectly, changes how the brain processes it. Not because talking fixes everything instantly, but because silence was never actually protecting anyone. It was just delaying something that needed to be felt, and eventually needed to be heard. This doesn't mean suddenly sharing everything with everyone, tearing down every wall at once. It means learning, slowly, carefully, that some people can actually hold what you've been carrying alone, and that finding out who they are doesn't have to cost what it used to. It means testing the water once, with someone who has earned a little trust, and noticing that the sky doesn't fall, and then maybe testing it again, a little further out, a little more honestly, the next time. If you've spent years being the one who's always fine, always steady, always the last to admit something is wrong, this isn't a flaw in you. It's a system that once kept you safe, doing exactly what it learned to do, at exactly the moment you needed it most. But safety and connection aren't the same thing. Being unreachable was never the same as being at peace. You can be someone people rely on and still be someone who's allowed to fall apart occasionally without losing the respect you spent years earning. And you don't have to choose silence forever just because it once made sense, just because it once was the only option that felt survivable. The version of you that built this pattern was doing the best it could with what it had. It doesn't need to be blamed. It just, eventually, needs a little relief. If this described you, or someone you know, let me know in the comments. I understand now. Subscribe for more on silence, self-mastery, and the psychology of who we really are underneath everything we've learned to show instead.